What's up, everybody? We are back here for another episode of Skirmish Supremacy. Tonight it is just going to be Nick and I kind of hanging out and talking about some of the new and exciting stuff that we've got going on our hobby desks and things of that nature. Nick, how you doing tonight, man?
Wait, you wanted me to talk?
Yeah, I did. I actually want you to talk for a change.
Damn it. It's going pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing okay. I'm just staring at this giant mess in my room at the moment. So, for the listeners out there, just to give you a heads up, I started packing up my walls and walls and walls of stuff because the wife and I put in an offer on a house this last week, and then we immediately flew off to Wisconsin. And then tomorrow, which will be Thursday the 5th of May, we are actually going to be finding out from the inspector what's going on and kind of going through the final processes of that. So I don't want to get too caught up in too many projects to where I'm just going to get myself just absolutely screwed before I end up moving.
As he volunteers to build somebody a display board.
Yeah, as I volunteered to build somebody a display board here in the Atlanta area. So I guess we'll go ahead and plug an event that's coming up here. Rob Fanuff, the guy that actually does the Countercharge podcast for Kings of War, has an event coming up for Kings of War called NashCon. That is coming up at the end of the month. You can actually look it up on Facebook. Just look for NashCon, and you'll definitely find it. I am a little unsure of the date at the moment, but I know that it's happening I want to say it's the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or the Saturday, Sunday over the Memorial Day weekend. I know it's supposed to be a 5-round event. Scenarios for those of you out there that are familiar with Kings of War, all the scenarios are straight out of the book. The only one that will not be used is kill. And a lot of that is because of the fact that people are wanting to veer away from the fact that there's a lot of old Warhammer Fantasy refugees, and they want people to start realizing this is not Warhammer Fantasy where you just go out and kill things. This is Kings of War. There is actually objectives.
But killing is so much fun.
Yes, the killing is fun, and it can happen quite quickly in Kings of War. However, that game you can actually win by scoring objective points. You could be almost wiped out to a man, but if you end up scoring more objectives than your opponent, you can end up winning the game.
Right. Actually, wait, no. Did I beat you? I did beat you in the last game we played.
Yeah, you technically did because of a special scenario that you and I were playing where a bomb went off at the end of the game, and it just so happened to hit like a good chunk of my ogres that were pressing and pressing and pressing up the field. And well, yeah, it sucked. I'll put it that way.
If your ogres would have quit kicking it.
My ogres are good at hitting things. They were not kicking that ball at you. They were not doing their jobs.
Your ogres were mean.
They were, and they were meant to be.
Seth has an ogre group in his orc army. It's the ogre gunners. And
the shooters?
Yeah. And they're just dicks.
Yeah, they can be. They're actually some of the best siege weaponry in the game if you give them a upgrade.
Interesting. Don't tell him what that is.
He already knows.
Damn it. Is it that brew of keenness?
Yes, the brew of keen-eyedness.
Yeah, yeah, he's definitely been using that one. I was playing with my Brotherhood or Bretonians, and I moved my Pegasus Knights. He had put both of his Morax right next to his ogres, but he had them on the outside, or the inside. The Moraxes were. The ogres were on the outside, so I came around and flanked them. And, oh my goodness, even with the elite Pegasus flyer guys, we went back and forth hitting each other for a few rounds, and he ended up winning. Why? Because this isn't fantasy. You have wounds, but it's really a nerve check, and if you roll double ones, it doesn't matter how many wounds you did, they still get to live. And so at a very key moment in the battle, I rolled double ones like 3 times.
That'll teach you.
I was so pissed because he managed to get a really lucky hit that totally wiped out that unit.
Your dice were way better than mine were that day that we had that little mini tournament over at Gigabytes.
Uh, so I can't complain about my dice, other than, when I really, really needed it, they were letting me down. I rolled 16 dice at one point, half of my attacks for one of my units, and I want to say nine or 10 of them were fives.
Wow.
Yeah, he was sitting there going, "That's really good dice." I'm like, "Do you want to use them?" He's like, "No, I like my dice."
Yeah, I remember when I played against Seth at that little mini Kings of War tournament that we had a few weeks back, and my dice all day just failed me. I'd roll up on him with something with like 36 attacks minimum, and that's all front facing, like 2 units hitting at once. And between those 36 dice, I would, and I'm hitting on 3 or better, so I'm only missing on 1s and 2s. And out of the 36 dice, I was hitting like, I don't know, 15, 16 times, which is, it's a little below average, but still a decent amount. And I only needed like, what was it, 3s to wound, I think maybe 4s. And I would just roll like out of those dice, like another 11, 1 or 2. And it was just like, so out of all that I just did, I gave you 3 wounds. Fantastic. Well, it was great playing today, folks.
Dice are definitely the bane of existence. Though we have established that you suck at rolling dice.
Yeah, we have solidly established that. It kind of makes me wish I didn't give up Malifaux, but hey, shit happens.
Right.
So what are you working on, Nick? Because I've got this giant 2x2 board I'm working on.
Nice. I'm working on, right now I'm actually trying to find my sprue clippers. I don't know where they went. Not cool.
Yeah, you kind of need those.
I think someone small might have stole them. So I am working on putting Flames of War together, actually. Tanks. And I think I just remembered where my sprue clippers are. Damn it. They're so far away. But
Flames of War.
So Gigabytes had a sale on Kings of War this past, or not Kings of War, on Flames of War this past weekend. So I went, okay. I've been eyeballing it. I picked up the starter. A buddy of mine asked me to pick him up a starter. He's back in Florida and would just have to order it. So I told him, all right, while it's cheap, I'll pick you up a starter. And then he was talking about doing the Germans. I'm like, well, I'm doing Americans. He's like, okay, well, here, you can have the tanks, and I'll take your German stuff. And so I've got a lot of tanks to put together. Actually, I've already put together a lot of tanks. I got like 10 of them together.
Good Lord.
Once I'm done putting all of them together, I also cleaned out what they had for some tanks. I'll have 24 tanks and 6 half-tracks.
I have yet to play a game of Kings of War. Kings of War. Wow. Too many games of war.
Exactly. Or the other one is Kings of Wrath, or Wrath of Kings.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that one.
Right.
Yeah, so I have yet to play a game of Flames of War. For some reason, the whole 15mm thing just never stuck with me.
Sorry about that, folks. Apparently it's starting to rumble thunder or something. My dog's not happy about it.
My dog's just chilling downstairs, so I'm doing okay on this side, but I'm sure he'll come running up here with his tail between his legs when the time comes.
Right. But so I played it a few weeks ago at Gigabytes with one of the local players. And I liked it. I had fun. And actually in all of my introduction games lately, either they just are trying to get me into playing the games or something, because I've won all of them. I even finally went and played a game of Infinity, and even though the dude was beating the hell out of me, I managed to go and secure the. It was basically a capture the flag mission, and I managed to secure it in the last round and win. I won it. I came in. Well, technically, I came in second at the Kings of War tournament, little tournament. My first 2 games ever. And then I played Flames of War, and I ended up winning that, even though. Uh, and the guy did apologize to me partway through as he was kind of brutalizing me. He's like, I drew up 2 lists of equal points, and I didn't really think about it till I put it all out on the table. You have a lot of infantry, and I've got a lot of tanks.
So what he was saying is you should have just died outright.
Not necessarily died outright, but it definitely wasn't a totally even matchup, he realized. But I still actually ended up winning.
Nice. How did you pull that off?
So first turn he went first, and he moved his tanks up to hide from the few tanks that I did have. He had them all in one group. Well, I had anti-tank guns sitting in a field, and right where they were positioned, he had pulled all his tanks up and he had tucked them all away, except for he had one kind of sticking out. It was one of the most tenuous. I can still see it. And he's like, "Yep, you can." And so I shot it, wounded it. The crew bailed out, and it actually happened to be the squad leader for his tank unit.
Oh,
and
brutal.
So if you lose your tank leader until somebody else is appointed, your tanks can't go anywhere or do anything. And he had hidden his general, his commander, off to the other side of the board, so he had to rush that guy over there to try and assign a new person to be in charge of the tank unit, which gave me a chance to start taking out some of his other stuff as he was creeping up. And I just kind of had a decent deployment because right in front of me was wide open, and when you have anti-tank weapons, they basically have 180 degrees right in front of them all across the board.
Brutal. So you were just taking out his stuff left and right when he was rushing.
Yeah, I took out a decent amount of it. He ended up, it was taking him a lot, and then he finally he did manage to get my tanks, because I was sitting there and I was playing Romanians and I had some Panzers and he had Shermans, and so I'm like, well, I was sitting on this other side of the hill from them, and I'm like, if I don't move these, he's going to get someone and they're going to come over and take me out. But if I do move these, this is probably the only round I'm going to have them. And that pretty much proved true. I got over there, I beat up his tanks some more, and then he took me out. It just boom, done. Those tanks were, I had 3 to 5. The odds weren't, and he rolled really well there. And so I was sitting there at that point, and I was going, well, man, those were my only tanks, and I've got 2 anti-tank guns. This was a good game in the first round when I took his leader out. I'm not sure it's going to be a good game the rest of the game, but at one point he was charging my infantry, and my infantry company commander got pulled into a charge, and he had a Panzerfaust, managed to take out another one of his leaders. Another group had, what did they have? They managed to do something where they actually took out another tank, so he ended up with 1 tank left after he charged a bunch of infantry with them.
Wow.
Oh man, it turned into a brutal fight right there. It was just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe any of this has happened.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Now, how many points was that game?
I don't remember. I don't think he really said. We used about a half a mat, so you know what? I don't even remember what the point scale is, but it was the barest necessary to play.
Gotcha. So you guys weren't running like a massive game. You were just running like a small skirmish to keep everything rolling.
Yeah, basically, he ran a skirmish of, here's basically how the mechanics work. It it would be something like a 5 to 1,000 point 40K battle. It just enough that you had a variety of units out there, but not enough that there was the overcomplicating things like no planes or anything like that.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Artillery. If he had artillery, I really would have been screwed. But no artillery.
Nice. So you were actually playing some games while I was gone over the course of this last week. Didn't you actually have Seth come over to the house?
I did. That's actually where he brutalized my Pegasus.
Flyers. Oh, okay, gotcha. So that was your Kings of War game.
Yeah, he came over last Thursday night.
Okay.
And he and I got a game in. And then I went and played. I got a Frostgrave game in. I braved it. I brought my kids into Gigabytes, and I'd said, hey, I'll play a game of Frostgrave with you to one of the guys there. Well, we had agreed beforehand, and I'm like, but I'm bringing my kids, so we'll see how it goes. My 10-year-old, he was fine. He went and found someone to play Magic with him, and he was happy. But I had the 4-year-old, and I did. It was a little bit challenging, especially once we were putting out the train. He kind of he had gotten some HeroClix Ninja Turtles, which those are really nice. They're like a hard plastic HeroClix. So
that weird gum.
Yeah, not that weird gum. They were actually like really sturdy. I was really impressed. I was kind of like, hey, I want these. You can't have them anymore. But he wanted some terrain for him to play in, because he kept trying to play in ours and move it and relocate it, and it's like, no, that actually has to stay there. And he's like, but why? I need it. The ninjas need somewhere to ninja.
He does have a point.
He does. And I did get him some terrain. Of course, we had some of the, cool towers and stuff like that. And he's like, but I want to play with that stuff. But overall, it was really good. I had fun. I got my butt kicked at Frostgrave. Speaking of which, have you seen the new Outlaws set? It's the you can add it to your Frostgrave soldiers.
I saw a little bit of it, but I know you were looking at that pretty hard, weren't you?
I am. Actually, I was bugging David over there at Gigabytes. I'm like, order this. Order it. Find someone to order it. I don't care. Get it. North Star's putting it out, and it's an expansion pack, and so it's kind of what it sounds like. It's a Robin Hood clone. It's got some funny little hats and some staves, some more bows, some people holding arrows now, some different head types, just all the little things that you would expect from a Robin Hood. And it just adds a little bit more variety to an already pretty awesome variety for Frostgrave. I have to say, if you guys haven't gotten that soldier pack, it's like $35. You get 20 soldiers in it, I think. And the amount of equipment on it, it's amazing. You can make lots of different combinations. But this adds in just that little bit of extra variety for just a few more things.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering how that worked, because I didn't see there's not a box of that one, right? You're just buying like the extra sprues that are compatible with the two sets.
Yeah, I've got it up here, and it says, the parts are of a Forester, Outlaw, Ranger theme. Could be woodsman for literature themed games like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones. The set includes metal heads, arms with more weapons, especially bows, staves, hunting horns, captured game, and extra weapons. It's all metal in this set. The painted models in the photo are plastic Frostgrave soldiers with metal Forest Outlaw parts modeled on them. And painted
Nice.
by,
So those should work with the cultists as well.
Yeah, they should. Actually, that's what the first line says. The Forest Outlaws is a set of metal model pieces designed to be used with North Star, Osprey Games, plastic Frostgrave soldiers, and Frostgrave cultist figure sets.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because for some reason when I thought Frostgrave, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make all my stuff cultists. Like a heathen. So
Yes.
That was actually the last game that I played before I actually left to go to Wisconsin, was Frostgrave. I was down at Gigabytes. I had a couple of tables set up, and I made a couple of stock characters for demos, and then I played the Illusionist, which I liked pretty much. The Elementalist, I think I just made it like too straightforward, where it's like, hey, look at me, I throw around fireballs. But I have yet to have a chance to play my Chronomancer, which is the one that I really want to play.
Oh yeah, Chronomancers seem interesting. Unfortunately, and Osprey Joe actually acknowledged this a little while back on the Facebook and was kind of talking about some things. There's a little bit of imbalance right now because with Frostgrave, you get experience, or one of the ways you get experience is by killing other people's stuff. Whether that's
right,
their
but the
henchman,
wizard has to do it.
Yeah, and it's either your wizard, I think your captain can do it as well. I think it's your wizard, captain, and apprentice. Can all give you experience if you kill other people's stuff. So it leads to, I've got a wizard, and I've taken all these offensive spells because I want to get as much experience as possible. Because then I can worry about, actually making my wizard do wizard things later.
Right, so if I start off with the hand cannons of fireballs and whatnot, it just means that I win easier.
Exactly. And I made for Saturday's game, I went with an Elementalist, and I did basically that. Especially since I knew it was going to be a one-off game. We haven't actually started a campaign yet, so I played around a little bit with some things, and it was more how my list was built. I did take the Chronomancer Fleet Feet or Swift Feet.
Oh, so you went with more of the speed demon.
Well, so I took that, but I made an Elementalist, and I took the Chronomancer spell, Swift Feet, as one of my ally spells. So it's normally a 10 to cast, so it was only a 12 for my wizard to cast. And in that game, my apprentice decided he didn't want to actually cast spells. He just wanted to try and commit suicide by spell casting. So he kept, significantly undercasting everything.
He had a dead apprentice, and all he was doing was trying to do things.
The best part is, though, my apprentice was sucking at spell casting, but he went to chase down one of my guys that was escaping off the board with treasure, and I think it was his wolf comes running by me, and since he was within an inch, he had to engage my apprentice, and my apprentice just clobbered the hell out of it. Basically, in one round, it was knocked out. It took a little bit in the next round, and then his other infantryman caught up with my apprentice and finished my apprentice off, unfortunately. But it was too funny because that wolf came by, and narratively speaking, all I could think of, because my model is a monk or a priest who's got this big club, and he's just kind of holding it. And so as that dog's coming by, I could see him picking it up and going, and smacking it. And then, happening.
Oh, man, that's crazy. So really your apprentice just like slapped the dog, called it a day.
Yeah, slapped a dog, then got stabbed and fell over.
Yeah, the MVP of my game was actually a thug, of all things. Like one of the cheapest, derpiest models in the game. And he ended up dropping an infantryman, dropped a crossbowman, and still took a treasure off the board.
You know, that's happened in war game. You know, like I've seen Ash play. I've seen a couple other battle reports where people play. And it happens. It's like the thug or the thief. I mean, the thief who basically gives you a bonus to your defense because all he's got is this crappy little dagger, and yet, you know, he's murdering people. Just flat murdering them. And,
yeah, it sounds about right.
I think that's one of the most fun parts about Frostgrave until it's happening to you. And you're like, this is broken. This needs to be fixed.
Yeah. So did I tell you that I picked up a copy of Judge Dredd?
No.
Yeah, so Batman's starting to slowly make a comeback over at Gigabytes. And I was thinking, it's like, you know, since Batman's a thing, Marvel is coming out with, Night Models is coming out with the Marvel Universe rules that are going to be, I guess, similar but not to the Batman miniatures game. I was like, you know what? Why don't we just like try to resurrect all of the comic book games? And I'm a huge Judge Dredd fan. So, you know, kind of going through the book, the thing I noticed is, you know, there's been some people that have been kind of pissing and moaning about the models, but the thing of it is that they modeled the models to look like the old comic books from the 80s and early 90s. So they still kind of have like those kind of ridiculous proportions compared to like, say, Infinity or any of the other like high-end model companies nowadays, or like Warzone. Warzone's really good at having proportionate models, but yeah, the Judge Dredd models, they still go for like that big cheesy look. Like Dredd still's got that massive chin. Judge Giant is just like this big kind of doof standing there. You know, even Sabbath, you know, for anybody that read the Judge Dredd comic book, Sabbath is this necromancer that came back to Mega City 1 and just started, like, raising dead by the millions. And they kind of gave him, like, his cheesy skull cloak. Like, the only thing you ever saw on Sabbath was his face, which he looked like a Bela Lugosi ripoff, and his hands. And the rest of it was just his cloak with skulls on it. So they brought back that cheesiness in the miniature, which I really appreciated. And, you know, on top of that, too, they brought back the Clegg, which are the crocodile people. They got a lot of cool models that are, you know, out with it. They brought back Judge Cal. Just about everything you could think of. If it was in the comic books, they brought it back right down to a couple of the gang members that you remember from the comic books, too. And they even resurrected some of the fight scenes from the different comic books as scenarios in the book. And overall, the system's really simple. It allows your heroes to level up. It allows minions to turn into heroes to be able to level up. It's got a really good campaign system, so it allows you to have that continuous play without like screwing over new guys, because you kind of, by leveling up, you kind of gain credits. So if somebody's jumping into the game brand new, they can kind of look at it and go, okay, I've got you know, an extra 200 credits on top of what we're playing in order to make a force that can compete with yours pretty easily without making it feel like, well, you've played 5 games, won all 5, I'm screwed to begin with.
Right.
Which I thought was really good. But, you know, I'm kind of excited for that one, too. You know, it's a 4x4 board, kind of bringing back that classic Judge Dredd feel. You know, and right down to the fact that, like, even the gang members look cheesy. You know, big pink mohawks and, like, giant pompadours and the whole 9 yards. I was like, yes, this is Dredd.
Dredd is cheesy.
Yes. Well, think about it. Like they even had the Four Horsemen come back, but it wasn't like your typical Four Horsemen. It was fear, death. Forgetting the other two, fire, and I don't think it was pestilence. It might have been, but they're basically come from like these alternate universes. Like Judge Death was like a great judge on Death World, and like there wasn't even like original names to it. It was Death World.
So I never really read the comics. I've only seen the movies.
So the comic books very much have that feel, and for anybody out there that's saw the movies but haven't read the comic books, Dread over the years has become a little bit more violent. I mean, it's always been violent. Don't get me wrong. Like the idea that these guys are judge, jury, and executioner all wrapped up in a one person is a pretty brutal thing to begin with, especially in something like Mega City 1, which is pretty much most of the Northeast coast on inside of a giant dome with this jurisdiction. But the idea that like they can operate with extreme prejudice given any situation that they deem it necessary, obviously within certain parameters because they are the law. But you look at how long ago was it? 2 years ago, 3 years ago? No, the Dread movie came out, and it was inside of the one of the city blocks.
Yeah, the Carl Urban one.
Yeah, the Carl Urban one. So like he did a fantastic job of playing Dread, because Dread's not a humor guy at all, ever. And they did a very good job of portraying what the judges are like, right down to I'm forgetting the name of the pistol now. I want to say it's the Enforcer pistol. I might be wrong on that, but the fact that they even brought in like the side division and everything else that went along with it, like they really touched on like that Judge Dredd vein. The only thing that they didn't do is like the gang members in there weren't like over the top. So that's kind of the cheesiness from the comic books, is like, they kind of took like the feeling of the old cyberpunk, where it's like, back in like late 80s, early 90s, when people thought of cyberpunk, they thought like, oh, well, at some point in the future, I'm going to dye my hair bright pink and, I'm going to spike it up and I'm going to do all this weird shit because of the fact that that's what, future punk is going to look like. And now, we're 2016 and we're looking at that going, wow, that is some cheesy bullshit. But, they stuck with that in the miniatures game, to kind of keep the idea that that's, what they kind of thought the future would look like, and that these punks just would not give a damn. Like, I will dress however I want and nobody's going to tell me what to do.
That's awesome. Actually, I keep telling the wife lately, I'm like, I think I'm going to bring the Mohawk back.
It'd be awesome.
Because a couple years ago, I was rocking a Mohawk all the time. And then I stopped for a while, and I don't know, been looking for something to change lately. I've been growing my hair out, and she keeps not liking it growing out, so I'm like, I'm just gonna shave it all off. She's like, why don't you just shave your beard off? That's something different. And then I look at her very evilly and tell her to go back to Florida.
I couldn't do that to my wife, because she'd go, okay, and she'd go. I'd never see her again. So yeah, I've been looking at Judge Dredd quite a bit. I'm not putting anything together for it yet, because again, I'm kind of staving off putting anything together until I get a little bit more finalized on the house. I mean, I do have some Warzone Resurrection I've been working on. I know I've been kind of teasing some of you local guys with it. I built up a couple of the big models for the Dark Legion. And didn't you end up getting some? You ended up getting some Bauhaus.
Yep, I got some Bauhaus, so that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Oh, hold on a second. There's an attack of monkeys. Monkeys.
They run rampant in your house.
Actually, they're about to go visit their grandparents, so
Oh yeah, you're dropping the kids off with the grandparents?
Yeah, end of May when the oldest one gets out of school. Actually, the day he finishes school, we hop in the car and drive. We're gonna meet somewhere in Virginia, and they're gonna go hang out with grandma and grandpa for the summer.
Nice. Nice.
Yep. It'll be interesting. The house is gonna be awful weird though. It's gonna be quiet all the time. It's gonna be me and the dog. It's gonna be weird. I'm not really gonna know what to do with myself. I told my boss at work, I'm like, I might end up being at work a lot of hours. Like, because I'm gonna like have all this time to like go hobby or work, and since I'll be at work, I might end up staying at work. Of course, they didn't encourage me to go do anything else. They're like, okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, well, that's why you don't ever tell them you got extra time on your hands.
Yeah. But I like my job, and I like the people I work with, so, that...
Double-edged sword.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, we're gearing up for a big inspection, so... see how that goes. But, yeah, so I've got a bunch of Bauhaus, or Bauhaus, however you want to say it. And I started putting together. I got the big tank, the Grizzly.
Yeah, the big geared one.
Yeah, and I'm putting that together. And I think even though I've got it together, I need to take and run it under some hot water and try and mold it some.
Is it a little jacked up?
Yeah, it's a little warped. So I'll either have to green stuff it all, or... So yeah, I got the Bauhaus. I think I have to run the Grizzly under some water, some hot water, to get the resin to mold a little bit. It just doesn't quite fit. Like I got it assembled, but there's just pieces that are just not quite there. I don't like how it's sitting right now, and so it's either get it to possibly bend if I run it under enough hot water and line up some more, or it'll be doing a lot of green stuff just kind of around the joints, because it came in two pieces. It came in a top piece and a bottom piece, and they're just off enough that it's bothering me.
So it's nothing that can be carved away at to make the pieces fit better. It pretty much just has a gap.
Yeah, well, it's more a warping than a gap.
Gotcha.
It's like the top or the bottom piece just decided to warp just a little bit.
Odd. So far, yeah, I know, like, my Dark Brotherhood stuff. I mean, I've only put together 2 models, so, take that for what it is. But I put together the Praetorian Behemoth. He's not on the base yet because I need to do some base work. And there was a little bit of resin down by... So the Praetorian Behemoth's got 4 hands. 2 of them are... His 2 lower hands are holding on to a big cannon. His 2 upper hands, one's kind of pointing, the other one's got a grenade. The lower hand that's kind of sitting on the foregrip of the rifle, its wrist it's got like this bracer on that like is a little, the resin was a little too thick, so I had to shave down on it to get it in order to get everything to kind of sit into place right. So but it wasn't a big deal. It was like I kind of did a dry fit to kind of see what was going on. I was like, okay, there's a problem. 20 seconds later, it was fixed.
Nice.
So it wasn't anything major. And then, so the Black Widow, which is their version of a heavy tank, which is really, it's just a giant spider with guns. That one went together really easily. There was just a little bit of mold flash, and that was about it. But so far, I've been very, very impressed with the stuff that Protoss puts out. I mean, I've got the AVP board game, and their stuff looks amazing in that. And so far, I have not been disappointed with anything that they've done for Warzone.
Well, and I was telling you earlier, I'm not bad with it. I like most of it. there's just a few little things here and there that I'm just like, huh, that seems to fit oddly.
Yeah, weren't you also having a problem with what is it, the Leviathan suit?
Yeah, so he's got two options. You can either go with a flamethrower or a machine gun arm, or you get and really you can set it up as you want, and then it's got a couple of fists, so you can go fists or arms, kind of however you want to set them up. And when I came off the sprue, it's like the cuff on his fists was just a little too thin, the resin or whatever, because I trimmed it just like I would trim anything else, and there's a hole on both of them. And one of them, it was worse because it was really thin, and I touched it after going, huh, what's this? And it actually, like, gaped apart. The other hole, a little bit of green stuff over it should, a really thin layer should just, give it a little definition, and then paint and you'll never see it. But
right.
Yeah, I don't know. I was a little shocked. I was like, huh, I've heard all these good things, and I put together the tank and that guy, and I was like, oh. I did put together some of the other models, and they're all right. The infantry take a little bit of figuring out. There was no real guide on putting them together. A lot of it, it's okay, there's guns and there's certain poses, so that's not really hard to figure out. It just gotta match it up a little bit.
Right. Because it's usually, what is it, like, I want to say, like, infantry comes in sets of 5.
Yeah.
And each guy has their own pose.
Yeah.
Or potentially. I mean, I know that there is a bit of modding that can be done to them fairly easily. I haven't reached that point yet. Just from what I've seen online, that seems to be the case.
Yeah, and that's what I've seen, is that you could do a little bit of modding with it, but I haven't attempted anything yet myself.
Yeah, I'm hoping to at least get the Dark Legion starter box together and a couple other models, and I'm looking forward to playing that one soon. I'm a big Warzone fan. I've always loved the mythos. I played the old school role-playing game, not so much the new one, but I've always liked the world. So to me, like, kind of getting back into that and, getting back into the roots of Warzone, it was kind of the alternative 40K for what it was. But I always really enjoyed it, and I know that a lot of people have said a lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff about the new system. I know that there is a 2.0 Warzone coming out soon, and really all that is just to clean up the base book. And a lot of it just comes down to the fact that, you could almost tell that this is a Polish company that when they translated the book, they might have just used Google Translate and left it at that. So there's certain things you look at it and you read it and go, hey, wait, what? And then you read it again and you're like, oh, okay, so I got to flip back 20 pages to get to, here's how to damage things in shooting, but shooting is actually covered 20 pages back. So you're like, oh, okay. So, yeah, I mean, the rule book, downside, it does need a bit of deciphering. The upside, lots of great artwork, lots of great fluff, full details and everything you need to build out your armies. I mean, everything that you would want to see in your core rulebook is there. It's just the translation in the 1.0 book is a little off. So there's a couple times where you'll feel like you're kind of putting together a puzzle in order to play it. But that's, keep in mind, I'm saying that I haven't even played a single damn game of it yet. I'm looking forward to it though.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it as well. That's why it was shiny and I bought it.
Yeah, the shiny syndrome is definitely a thing that has got to be curbed.
Hey, now. I mean, Shiny. I swear I've got some raccoon in me or something. Because,
Yeah.
Or crow.
Well,
one of the two.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just looking at all the stuff again that I've got either assembled or not assembled yet that's got to get packed up, and I'm going, my God, what have I done?
Yeah. The funny part is you're the only person to tell me that the shiny syndrome needs to get curbed. Everyone else is like, you're into models. It's just what happens. Accept it.
Yeah, well, my problem with it is, and I know I've mentioned it before in a couple other episodes of the podcast, is the fact that, like, because of I work in the gaming industry, and I'm not saying that as like a bragging thing, but like I get a lot of stuff, and especially with this hobby as a whole, like if you get too much stuff, you start to get like if you get it all assembled and you're like, oh, I just want to use it all, you reach that point to where you simply get overwhelmed with the amount of shit that's on your painting desk that like after a while you just kind of say screw it and put it away. Then you reach a point where you don't even play with primed models anymore. They're just like either bare metal, resin, or plastic, and then you start feeling like an asshole. Everybody else that you go and play, their stuff's all painted, and you're sitting there with gray armies. They're looking at you like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" Maybe that's just me, but like I want to get back to focusing on the fact where it's like, okay, I build this box of models. I don't build anything else until this set is completely painted and based. Then I move on to the next one.
I can agree with you. I'm definitely trying to work on it, and actually, my US Ariadna, I've got more stuff for it, but I have enough to play games painted, assembled, painted. I haven't done the basing yet because there are some touch-ups I want to do to all of them. But other than doing the touch-ups, because just as I went through, I refined, it actually clicked, hey, this is how this paint job should be. So other than that, it's good to go. And I felt happy. I went and played, and I had one unit that I hadn't painted, or I had painted him, but I hadn't finished painting him. He was primed and he was base coated, but I just didn't have a chance to paint him. But I was like, yes, he's I want to use him, but out there playing, and I felt good. I was quite happy with myself. I'm like, woohoo! I've got an army. I've got an army. I've got an army. Hey, hey, hey.
Yeah, I want to reach that point again. That would be wonderful. I mean, I've got the base coat stuff on my Kings of War. I want to get them finished, especially my ogres.
Yeah, I haven't started painting my Kings of War yet.
Well, did you at least get the rest of them assembled in on legitimate basis and not just one model half assembled on a piece of cardboard?
Oh no, one of them was half assembled, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. So just fill everybody in. Kind of going back to the Kings of War tournament that we had a couple of weeks ago. It was an intro tournament, so we didn't require everybody to have everything assembled and together. However, Nick has been sitting on this dwarf box for quite some time.
Wait, not up to that point. It had been a week.
Quite some time. So anyway, he comes to this tournament with like one dwarf mounted to the middle of a piece of cardboard that he cut into the footprint to be a regiment of like dwarf iron gunners. And he did the same thing with his Brock Riders. He did the same thing with his cannons, which I think the cannons were the only things he had assembled. And then, so I basically faced an army of cardboard bases.
Now, to correct Tim on that story, I had almost everything except for the Brock Riders. Actually, I had everything except for the Brock Riders assembled. It was all put together. But I was like, hey, where can I get some bases to put these on? And he went, do you have cardboard? I went, yeah. He's like, you've got bases. So
while this is true, I thought you would actually mount more than one dude to each base.
So I'm like, okay. And so I brought everything to the tournament, and I got there a little bit early, and I'm like, all right, I got to put the stuff together. I got to put them all on the bases. And he's like, just glue one guy to it. I'm like, really? I put these all together, and you're just telling me put one guy on it. I'm like, the only one I was going to try and do that with was the Brock Riders, because the damn Badgers are annoying as hell. They tried to bite me, I swear.
Yeah.
So, and actually it turned out, I put one Badger together, and then I realized that my list called for 2 of them, so I had to go cut another base. But also, our local game shop doesn't have the right bases right now, so I've got to order them online, I guess. I keep hoping he's just going to get them back in stock, but...
Just contact Austin. I know he's got them all.
Yeah, I'll get a hold of Austin. Hopefully he'll send me some.
He'll get you taken care of. Oh, so by the way, speaking of Death Ray Designs, I know this sounds like a shameless commercial plug, but he's actually got all 3 of his lasers set up now.
Yeah, I saw that, which makes me very excited because I backed his Blackside X, and I'd like to, get my train. So
give that one a little bit more time. I know that he's still kind of screwing around with the computers. There's a lot to these things, so he's thinking he might be up and rolling here, at least as far as using the lasers on a somewhat operational level in the next couple of weeks. He does work a full-time job, so it's not like he's there all day and all night doing it, but I know that once he gets the lasers calibrated, the programs are just, it just needs to get loaded up and translate over to the new lasers, and then he's going to start cutting.
Yeah, because he also moved offices with that stuff, right?
Yeah, he did. So, for the most part, he was working out of his garage in a small other area, and he just upgraded his warehouse. So his warehouse, I mean, it's not huge. It doesn't need to be. But he needed more space in order to work.
Yeah.
And especially with these 2 giant-ass lasers that both of them almost weighed a damn ton. He definitely needed the extra space for everything.
Right. No, understandable. And, I mean, I would love to have my train from the Kickstarter, but I can obviously wait a little bit longer, wait and, applicable amount of time. I've been waiting almost 2 years for dice, so,
Yeah, Kickstarters sometimes get out of hand, but luckily when you especially deal with some of the smaller companies, I'd say 90% of them deliver when they say they're going to deliver, or within that 3 or 4 month time frame afterwards. I always look at it from the standpoint that if I'm getting my stuff 4 months later than they say, it's still on time.
Yeah, well, and you do, especially when it's some of their first Kickstarters. You got to give them a little bit of leeway because it is their first. There's, now I can start looking at it a little bit more. Did you actually talk to other people? Did you, there's enough people out there that have done it that have you at least, gone, hey, I'm about to do a Kickstarter.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm still going to give you the leeway as long as you communicate. The dice guy, and I empathized with him because I could feel some of what he was saying and doing was almost identical to probably how I would be in the same situation. He would find something and think it was going to save him a whole bunch of time and excitedly tell everyone, oh, everything's going to be flying out of here. And then he'd go quiet for like weeks. And everyone would be like, what happened? Where are you? And finally, a business colleague, guru, something like that, had a coming to Jesus with him, and he came back, and now he's, there's a weekly post he's supposed to do. He calls it he gives an update on Wednesdays of what's happening, and then he follows that up with Thursday of answering all your questions and whatnot. And pretty much no matter what, he is stuck to... He will at least tell you something on Wednesday. There's been a couple times, like today he sent out his update, but he's like, hey, I'm behind. I'm trying to get some stuff finished up for the week. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Or, I'll give you an update tomorrow. And, that even extends from he's been sick for a couple weeks, so He's still sent out his Thursday or his Wednesday update going, "Hey guys, really sick right now. Just bear with me." And so, it's nice to see that he moved from people being pissed and, damn near wanting to string him up because, he would say these things and then not say anything again for a while. And that's where I could totally see me doing it. It's not even an intentional thing as much as, oh shit, that didn't work. Now I need to try and make up for lost time or whatever, or something like that. And you get focused. And it's a management thing that's really, really challenging, especially with just certain minds. I can't think of the right word.
Minds. We'll just use that one.
Minds. It works. Certain ways you think, they just it's not that you don't or you put off. I do it all the time. So my kid's that's in daycare, he's about to go to his grandparents for the summer, and he needed to have a thing in by the May 2nd. And so we were trying to flesh out the dates, so I didn't have it, and I set a date, okay, this is when you're coming back. So it's for his daycare, and it's basically, I'm going to be gone between these dates, and I'll pay X amount to hold his spot until that point in time. I'm guessing what they'll do is then on a other basis, offer out his slot until he comes back, which is what I would do. And Monday being the 2nd, I went in there. And I had forgotten even that it was the 2nd or anything like that. I'm like, hey, I need one of those forms. I need to, I got a little bit of time. Let me do it right now. So they're like, oh, okay. Here you go. After they found a copy. And I'm filling it out, and I realized it said the 2nd. I'm like, oh, holy crap. I'm getting something in on time.
Oh, yeah, deadline. Well, I suppose we got less than a minute left in order to wrap this thing up, and the wife's home now. I'm going to go spend some time with her. I know that you got a couple of monkeys you got to put in cages.
I do. Got to lock them up. They're bouncing all over the place.
So I know we didn't get a chance to plug it, but we also wanted to talk about the fact that what was it? This last week or the week before, you were on a podcast by yourself. What was that one all about?
I offered to bring you along, and you're like, nah, you go have fun. So
it wasn't so much of me going, nah, you go have fun. It's called, I'm working.
Okay, fine. You were working. It was Muddle's Workshop After Hours. I think I said that right. It's a group of people. A lot of them, or all of them, are painters, and they're all across the country. And they get together. It's a bi-weekly, so they get together every 2 weeks. They record. They sit down and record. They have some different topics. We were talking about various manufacturers, model makers, and what their lines are and what they do. And we talked about a bunch of other things, including, just model making in general, painting, how one of the guys who's on there uses $1.50 paintbrushes, but has 2 jeweler saws. But he likes to paint with $1.50 paintbrushes.
Yeah, I'm never going to be one to tell people how they should paint, or should not paint. So
right, I mean, no, but it's still, it's like $1.50 paint. I can't even get my, nicer paintbrushes to do what I want, and you can paint really well with a $1.50 brush. I want to buy you a whole bunch of them so that I can stab you with them. Individually, slowly.
$1.50
$1.50 at a time. It was fun. It was 2 hours. I think the only bad part is I sat down with a 6-pack of beer, and as we were BSing and talking, I kept drinking it. So when it came my time, I was talking about Hydra miniatures because I have a deep love for them, and also we were all kind of goofy by that point in time, anyways. So I started talking about rockets, and it kind of veered off from there. I totally lost traction, but it was fun. You go listen to it. They're on iTunes. They gave me a nice little plug at the beginning. Let me talk about Skirmish Supremacy for a while. So I told him that Tim doesn't do anything and I do all the work.
Yeah, we both know that's bullshit.
Uh-huh.
Well, anyway, man, I should probably get going. Go downstairs, hang out with the wife a little bit before I go to bed to wake up at the ass crack of 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I've been trying to do that lately. Still only been ending up getting up around 5:30.
Yeah, that's when I start my workout, so I want to keep to that schedule. That way I'm at least feeling like I'm doing something in the morning instead of just sitting there like a piece of shit. And just as a common reminder, no, I don't think that anybody that doesn't work out or doesn't work out in the morning is a piece of shit. That's just a personal feeling about myself if I don't do it. So, before anybody starts throwing us hate mail, there it is.
Speaking of hate mail, where can they send us hate mail?
Well, we have the Skirmish Supremacy email list, so they can send it to us at tim@skirmishsupremacy.com or nick@skirmishsupremacy.com. Or they can blow up our Twitter feed at Skirmish Supreme, because apparently we can't fit all the letters.
Nope.
And then, of course, they could also just hate us on Facebook.
Yeah, and that's Skirmish Supremacy on Facebook. Or we also have a group, Skirmish Supremacy Street Team.
Yeah, I suppose we should probably plug those guys, too. We got a couple guys out there that really like the podcast, and they've been doing a lot in order to help us spread the word. So, we definitely got to show them some appreciation. Nick and I are kind of talking about a few things about what we're going to do in order to kind of kick back to those guys some of the love a little bit, but I don't really want to discuss it on air at the moment.
Ooh, vague talking. That's
yeah,
awesome.
You're damn right. All right, folks, I got to bounce. Nick, we'll talk to you probably tomorrow.
All right, talk to you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Skirmish Supremacy. To see more of the antics that Nick and I do, you can check us out on Facebook at Skirmish Supremacy. We also have Twitter, which we can be reached at Skirmish Supreme, because apparently Skirmish Supremacy does not fit in Twitter. And if you want to email us directly, you can reach us at tim@skirmishsupremacy.com or nick@skirmishsupremacy.com. Thanks for listening.